Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Emergence. This is Michelle Wong, and I am so excited that you are here. Thank you for listening. And if you're brand new, welcome. If you're a returning listener, I am so grateful to you. So today's episode is going to be short and sweet. I wanted to share a solo episode really around the journey and the path of life. And really, August has been a really interesting month. And when you hear this episode, when this episode drops, it's August 31st, right? Monday, August 31st. So we're at the end of summer. And summer this summer of 2020 has actually been a really, really cool, really fast summer. And July was phenomenal. July was a birthday month for me. And August was an interesting one because I really set August to be a more feminine, more goddessy, just kind of connecting back to myself. And I had so many opportunities and so many just moments of let's take a step back, let's relax, let's chill, and really tapping into the discomfort of, oh my gosh, I have so much space in my day that sometimes when I have so much space, it's a little bit uncomfortable. What do I do with myself? And this weekend, the word nonlinear path came up to me. But it revisited itself in my mind, the nonlinear path. And I'm like, oh, of course. Life is not meant to be linear. And my domain is the nonlinear path or nonlinear path. They get redirected to my main domain of michellewong.com with 2 W's. And it's sometimes you forget that life isn't meant to be linear because we have goals and we set our sights on, the end result, and we just want to get there. What's the next step? If I follow A, B, C, D, E, F, G, will I get to, the next thing? And we climb the ladder. We always expect for, this straight line or this formula of success or whatever it is that we desire. And yesterday it hit me that, oh yeah, life is not meant to be linear at all, right? That's the beauty of life. It's not a straight line. And it would serve us so much better to remember that, life gives us twists and turns, and it's best for us to expect the unexpected because that's what really life is about. And I share that because yesterday I was listening to my coach. She was talking about her effortless wealth, and she was giving the analogy of riding the wave. And when you ride the wave, there's an ebb and flow, right? I'm not a surfer. That is on my list, but I'm not a surfer, but she gives an analogy of when you go out for the surf, when you're trying to catch the wave, you got to swim out. And sometimes you catch it, sometimes you don't, but the wave or the water, it pushes you back to shore. And there's that ebb and flow. And the resilience is built when we keep moving out, when we keep trying, when we keep going out to try to catch the next wave. And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, but there's the ebb and the flow. And I was thinking about that as she was talking because this past week has been an emotional week for me. And it was things came up and I was like, I thought I handled this. I thought I was over this. I thought I healed it. And it was an emotional week because things just kept coming up. And what's interesting is that when we're in those moments, we forget where we are in life. We lose the perspective. And I realized that I'm right now on day 8. I finished day 8 of my heavy metal detox smoothie cleanse. So if any of you are curious, I purchased the book Cleanse to Heal by Anthony William. And Anthony William has written many, many books, and he is the medical medium. And so if you ever heard of the celery juice movement, he basically he started the movement, I'll just say. And so celery juice is a huge thing. And the heavy metal detox smoothie is designed to really support the liver and the body and removing the heavy metals that we've accumulated from living our day-to-day life. And so in any type of cleanse, our emotional stuff will come to surface. This is just a little side note. So I'm reading Cleanse to Heal, and he talks about whenever we do a cleanse, our emotions start to get cleaned out as well. Because whenever we experience like trauma, and trauma doesn't have to be a big thing, but maybe it's like an emotional moment, or we experience hurt or pain, or even like immense joy or like betrayal, like all the ranges of emotions, our body produces adrenaline. And the adrenaline can come in different chemical forms. Like there's a different chemical concoction that our body creates to create the emotion, to handle the situation. And when I say handle, it could be positive or negative. But it creates a memory in our body. And with that comes chemicals. And sometimes our body oftentimes doesn't move or clean the adrenaline that gets created out of our system fast enough. And it ends up being stored in our body and stored in our cells. And so when we go through a cleanse, the emotions can come up again, right? So they come up so that it can be cleaned out. And so I'm doing, day 8 of this cleanse. I've been really good. And suddenly I feel emotional. And I'm like, oh my God, like I thought I was done. Like I've processed this. And next thing you know, I'm crying, I'm tearing up, and I'm also like, I did a breathwork session this weekend. It was an intense breathwork session that I decided to do because I felt kind of sad, and I'm like, oh, let's move this energy. And so I'm bawling in the middle of this breathwork session. And we can be so hard on ourselves sometimes, because I was like, oh my God, like I really thought I moved through this. And here I am being hit with another emotional bucket. And in that moment, I was like, life isn't meant to be linear. And I listened to my coach talk about the waves, and she's talking about effortless wealth here. Like, when we aim for goals and we have our eyes and our hearts set on what we want to achieve, there's this ebb and flow. And as she's talking about the ebb and flow, I'm like, this is life. It's not even like talking about wealth. Like, this is life, the ebbs and flows. And I had this moment of elation in my body of like, I am here for it all, right? Like life, we are here to really experience life. And we as humans need to really feel, so that we get to experience life as humans. And if we aren't humans, then we're robots, because robots don't feel, they don't have emotions, they don't sense, right? There's like robots don't cry. We're not meant to be robots. We are human beings. We're here to really feel. And it's through the feeling that we can really move through things. And it helps us become more compassionate. It helps us become more, just more empathetic. And it allows us to connect with people and relate to people so that we can be more kind, more gentle. And it was in that moment of like, oh yes, like life isn't linear. It's not meant to be linear. And when these moments come of emotional waves, let's not beat ourselves up for it. Let's really just sink into it. Let the emotion that needs to come up. So in my case, I was crying. And then we move through it. And it's always a cathartic process, I feel, when I'm like in tears. And I'm like, okay, now I feel really good. And at the end of like a cry fest, for example, I always feel like I have like more clarity, more insights. And for me this time around, it was, life is not meant to be linear. And just because we do healing work, just because we work on ourselves, just because, we make strides and we take, a few steps forward, sometimes like it's not even go backwards. It's just like something else will happen where we're reminded of where we are on our journey. And I always like to think of it as, the stock market. If you look at the lines on a stock market, If you're looking at just like a month of like a stock, then you'll see ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And if you look at maybe in the next few months, you'll see the same thing. So it's like, what's really going on? If you pull back and look at like the past 2 years, you'll notice that most of the time the stock is always going up, right? Like it's going up. Overall, it's going up. It's just that when we hone in on a small time frame in that process, it looks like it's not really going anywhere. It's like a few steps forward and maybe a few steps back, and then there's a little blip, goes back down, and there may be some spikes here and there. But if you look at the bigger picture, there's always an up. The line is moving up overall. And that's how I feel about life. Life is not meant to be linear, but if we continue to grow and look at the bigger picture, things are always happening and unfolding really for us to grow and receive as long as we choose to. And so I remember maybe like pretty early on in my podcast, I pulled a card. It was an oracle card, and one of the things on the card was around like, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And that is something that's a perspective that we can take on, of like, if we're wondering like, oh my God, woe is me, why is this happening to me again and again and again? I thought I've worked with this, and we start to like really beat ourselves up. We can reframe that and look at, well, if I'm really like, if my value in life is really around growth, because that is my value, right? Like I created this podcast, Sacred Emergence, really like from the place of exactly where we are. We are amazing. We're perfect beings. And as humans, we're here to evolve and grow. Like that's why we're here. That's our soul is really here to experience. And how does it experience? It's through our emotions. If we're really here to grow, then let's look at what's happening to us through a different lens, and how can we grow from this experience. And that to me is what Sacred Emergence is, right? It's from the place of how we are already amazing, and then how do we grow and evolve from this place. And growth is not always, unicorns and rainbows. I'm sure you've all heard of that and know of it. But when we're in the moment of pain or hurt or of suffering, we forget. And it's in these moments of we have an opportunity to feel it all, and then on the other side of it, look at, okay, like, what did I learn from this? How did this experience really serve me? And that was me this weekend. Going through an emotional cleanse, doing a physical cleanse and then being hit emotionally. And in that moment, I forgot that, oh my gosh, I'm doing a cleanse and this is meant to happen. Because when we're in it, we don't see the bigger picture. But I remembered I'm doing a cleanse right now. And of course, it's digging things up, right? And then plus adding on a breath work where it's designed to move emotions, is to move things, to clean things out using your breath. Of course, things are going to come up. Of course it is. And then we don't resist it. We allow the emotions to flow through us so that we can really clean it up and move it out of our system. And then there's another layer there. And so my whole point of sharing this is that wherever we are in life, right? Because summer's almost over. We're stepping into fall. I know for a lot of people, it's back to school time. And this year, it's very different. Most of my friends are homeschooling their children. And so there's a little bit more, adjusting. And so as we step into fall, it's not going to be the same as previous years. And so how do we live this out? What's our intention here? And I've started to be more mindful about, how do I set my days? How do I set my weeks? How do I set my months? And I'm looking at September. I'm looking at my calendar. I'm like, how am I going to, what is my theme for September? And remembering that no matter how I plan things out for next month, no matter the theme, no matter, the dates that I set, my planning for launches and different programs or leaving space for goddess time, I cannot predict the future. And I'll know for sure that life is going to bring things up where we have an opportunity to learn and grow. And so one of the beautiful things that my mentor, Melanie and Layer, has taught me is that I really get to look at how I want to live my life. Like it's a story. Like, how do I want to live my life? How do I want to tell this story when I look back? And so when I look back at even this weekend of like healing from, emotional upset, the tears that come up, where I thought, oh my goodness, like I thought I already healed this and the pain comes up again. How do I really want to look at this? Do I want to look at this like, woe is me, I'm a victim here? Like, no, no. Like, I get to remember that this is life, and as humans, we experience emotions. This is a beautiful part of the story, so that next time, if this happens to someone else, I can share my story. And remembering that life is not linear. Just because we've moved on from something, that we've healed a piece of something, sometimes it circles back and we get to work on another layer, or we get a different perspective. And this time, like, I actually felt in my system and in my bones how amazing life is, that we get to experience the highs and lows of life. And like, what a gift that we really get to feel into our emotions. And and I'm speaking as, in human design, I have my solar plexus / emotional center undefined. Cancer sun, Cancer rising. Cancer is all about learning how to feel. And I'm like, okay, so this is really me. Like, I'm speaking from my purpose of feeling here. And so, like, as a listener, as you're listening, you might be like, I have no idea what she's talking about. Like, I am good. Like, I don't know, like, what is she talking about? These emotional highs and lows? Like, I am good. Then that's great. And like, sometimes we get hit with emotions. Like, we're emotional beings. There's no way to really avoid it unless we're just, we do it on purpose to kind of shut things down and repress things. But the more we're willing to feel, the more we can really, really live life, right? If we're willing to feel the joys and the sorrows and the anger and like the sadness, like all of it. And when I look at like the nonlinear path, part of the nonlinearity of it all is that we cannot predict what life throws at us. But it's always, if we're willing to open up to it, we can take moments and we can receive the lessons, receive the memories. And like, I even think back to my knee injury. I can extract lessons from it. I wouldn't say like, oh, it happened for me so I could learn this. Like, no, it wasn't. Even that isn't linear. Like, it happened, it was unfortunate. And I'm so grateful for my body's strength, and I'm grateful for the fact that I love my knee, and I shared so much love towards my knee, and I never was hard on her. And sometimes I wish the healing is faster. I wish I'm already, there at the 100% line. And there's patience as part of it. And also celebrating along the way. And so like, that's all part of the journey. And even that journey isn't linear, right? But the healing, like, if I look at the arc of my healing, it's on an ups, it's always going up. It's always going up. Even though sometimes in the process, like, I might have overdone it. So I have to like take it easy for a few days or maybe even a week. So like, in that moment, it's not linear, but at the end of it, I believe if we're taking the step back and we focus on the growth and we focus on extracting the memories and the lessons and feeling into our emotions versus trying to suppress it, and appreciating all of our emotions, and understanding the non-linearity of it all, at the end of the day, if we look at the bigger picture, it's all about growth. Like, if we look at where we were even a year ago, if we are willing to grow, if we're willing to consciously put effort into our life's path, we've come so far. I know that for myself, like, when I look back to where I was even in January of this year, I've come so far. What's happening in the world, like all of it, like, we're learning, we're growing, regardless of whether or not we want to. If we choose to lean into the process of how can I be better from where I am? How can I be a better friend? How can I show up better? How can I show up more? Then it's all worth it at the end. So that's what I want to talk about, the nonlinear path, the nonlinearity of it all. And like the healing, like all of that is not linear, and to embrace it, even though in the moment we don't see it. We can be really hard on ourselves in the moment, but just understanding and remembering that at the end of the day, it's really here to serve us if we choose to. And then if we're willing to open our hearts to expand and to receive information in a different way, then we can see how it can actually be for us in the greater picture of things. So that is my download for today. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. And I wish you all the best of the end of summer. And if you're listening to this, when it's dead of winter, then summer is around the corner. All right. Have a beautiful day. And thank you for tuning in. Cheers.
Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support. And take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.